The rag slipped from my hand and hit the polished marble floor with a soft thud that echoed through the lobby. I stood completely frozen in the entrance of Sterling Corporate Plaza, my cleaning uniform suddenly feeling heavier than it ever had before. Through the glass walls of the break room, I could see my daughter Olivia laughing with her co-workers, her expensive designer blazer catching the afternoon light perfectly. One of them had just asked her something, pointing in my direction with obvious curiosity. Olivia's face changed instantly, that familiar look of embarrassment I'd seen creeping in over the past year. She waved her hand dismissively and said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "She's just a cleaner." The words hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Everyone in the vicinity turned to look at me. Some faces showed pity, others barely concealed amusement. I felt my chest tighten painfully as Olivia deliberately looked away, pretending I didn't exist at all. The humiliation washed over me in waves, public, instant, and completely irreversible. My legs felt weak beneath me, but I forced myself to stand straight and maintain my dignity. I couldn't breathe properly anymore. My vision blurred with unshed tears. As I grabbed my cleaning cart with shaking hands and pushed it toward the nearest restroom, my hands trembling so badly the bottles rattled loudly against each other. Inside the bathroom, I gripped the cold porcelain sink tightly and stared at my reflection. In the harsh mirror, the fluorescent lights showed every line on my weathered face, every gray hair I hadn't had time to color or cover. Behind me in the mirror's reflection, I could still see through the partially open doorway Olivia was laughing again with her colleagues, probably relieved I'd finally left the scene. My fingers trembled as I turned on the faucet, letting the water run to hide any sound I might make. I whispered to myself, "My daughter." But I couldn't finish the sentence without breaking down completely. The heartbreak felt intensely physical, like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. This was the girl I'd raised completely alone, sacrificed absolutely everything for, loved more than my own life. My name is Martha Hayes, and I'm 52 years old. I've spent the last 24 years raising Olivia completely alone after her father died tragically in a construction accident when she was just 3 months old. These hands, the very ones she just dismissed so casually in front of her fancy coworkers, are the same hands that held her through every childhood fever, signed every permission slip, packed every school lunch with care, and worked grueling double shifts so she could have opportunities one never dreamed of having. Myself. I stood there in that cold bathroom, gripping the edge of the sink until my knuckles turned completely white, and something deep inside me fundamentally shifted. The sadness was still there, sharp and cutting like broken glass, but underneath it, something harder was forming, like steel being forged in fire. I looked down at my cracked, calloused fingers that told the story of decades of honest, hard work, and made a decision right there in that moment. I wasn't going to cry anymore over this betrayal. I was going to remember this exact moment for what came next. The memories came flooding back like a dam breaking as I stood there staring at my worn reflection. I remembered young Olivia doing her homework diligently at our tiny kitchen table while I heated up discount dinners from paper boxes because that's all we could afford on my salary. Me leaving quietly for my second shift at midnight, kissing her forehead gently, while she slept peacefully in her bed, promising myself silently that her life would be so much better than mine ever was. The way she used to hug me so tight after school, not caring at all that my uniform smelled strongly like industrial cleaning products and hard work. I remembered every single parent-teacher conference I attended straight from work, still wearing my janitorial clothes while others wore expensive business suits and carried designer handbags. I remembered the pure, genuine pride in her bright eyes when she showed me her excellent report cards, when she got accepted into college with a partial scholarship, when she landed her first real internship at a prestigious company. Back then, she used to tell people proudly that I worked incredibly hard to give her opportunities. When exactly did that gratitude change into shame? The shift happened gradually over about 2 years, I realized now, then all at once like a dam breaking under pressure. At her college graduation ceremony, I'd shown up wearing my best outfit, clean and carefully pressed but obviously worn and dated compared to other parents in attendance. Olivia had hugged me on the lawn afterward, but I felt her body stiffen noticeably and uncomfortably when her university friends approached us for celebratory photos. Later that same year, she started dating Andrew seriously, a successful corporate lawyer from a wealthy Connecticut family with old money. I met him exactly once at a coffee shop downtown. He'd been polite to my face, but clearly distant and uncomfortable the entire time, and I overheard him tell Olivia quietly in the parking lot afterward that her background might raise uncomfortable eyebrows with his parents at the country club. I'd waited hopefully in my car for her to defend me, to tell him firmly that my background was built on honest work and real sacrifice for her future. Instead, she'd gone completely quiet, nodding slowly in what looked like agreement. That crushing silence was the first real crack between us. The first time I truly felt her pulling away from me emotionally. 6 months ago, everything changed in an unexpected way I never could have predicted or imagined. The cleaning company I worked for, Brightway Services, secured a new contract with Sterling Corporate Plaza, a massive glass building downtown that housed several prestigious companies and corporate offices. When I saw the assignment sheet with my name clearly printed on it, my heart skipped several beats in succession. I knew for certain that Olivia worked somewhere in that building complex. Part of me genuinely hoped this would be an unexpected chance to reconnect with her, to show her I was still proud of my work even if she wasn't anymore. Maybe if she saw me being professional and competent at my job, saw the genuine respect I received from building management, she'd remember why she used to be so proud of me too. I put on my neatest, most professional uniform that first day, carefully pressed and spotlessly clean. I even styled my hair differently than usual, trying to look more polished and put together. Maybe things could be different this time, I thought hopefully. Maybe she'd see me with new eyes and remember all the sacrifices I'd made for her future and success. That fragile hope died completely and utterly the moment I stepped onto her floor exactly 3 weeks into my new assignment there. I'd been cleaning quietly and efficiently near the conference rooms, trying to be invisible and unobtrusive the way good cleaners are trained to do, when I heard familiar laughter echoing down the hallway. Olivia stood casually by the office coffee station with 3 of her co-workers, all of them young and polished in expensive clothes I could never dream of affording on my salary. One of them, a blonde woman with a sharp, professional haircut, looked directly at me and then back at Olivia with obvious curiosity on her face. "You two have the exact same eyes," she said cheerfully and innocently, clearly trying to be friendly and observant. "Are you related or something?" The innocent question hung there in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. I held my breath anxiously, my cleaning cloth frozen mid-wipe on the glass surface. Olivia's face went pale first, then flushed bright red with obvious embarrassment. She laughed, but it was cold and sharp and cruel, nothing like the warm, genuine laugh I remembered from her happy childhood. "She's just a cleaner," Olivia said dismissively, turning back to her coffee. "We're not related at all." I don't remember leaving the building that day, or how I even got home safely. My body moved on complete autopilot, mechanically putting away cleaning supplies, clocking out at the time clock, walking to the bus stop in a complete daze. The November cold bit harshly through my thin jacket, but I barely registered the temperature or the biting wind. Each step I took echoed painfully in my head with Olivia's cruel words playing on endless repeat. Just a cleaner, not related, just a cleaner, not related. The bus ride home was a complete blur of lights and stops and anonymous faces. My neighbors waved cheerfully as I walked up slowly to our apartment building in the fading evening light. I forced a weak smile and waved back automatically, but my face felt like I was wearing a mask that didn't fit right anymore. Inside my small apartment, I saw Olivia's framed graduation photo sitting prominently on the shelf, her in her cap and gown, me standing proudly beside her, both of us smiling genuinely at the camera. I walked over slowly, picked up the frame with trembling hands and turned it face down on the shelf deliberately. I couldn't look at it anymore without feeling physically sick to my stomach. That night, I sat completely alone at my small kitchen table and wrote just 2 words on a piece of scrap paper with a steady hand. Enough. Done. My hands were steady and calm for the first time all day, no longer shaking with hurt and humiliation. I wasn't angry in a loud, explosive, destructive way that would make me do something foolish. I was calm, cold, and quietly determined in a way I'd never been before in my entire life. The next morning, I called Brightway Services and gave my professional notice. 2 weeks exactly, polite and completely by the book. My supervisor was genuinely surprised and tried hard to talk me out of quitting. I'd been their most reliable and efficient worker for 6 solid years, never late, never absent, always thorough. But I told her calmly that I had other opportunities to explore, which was only half true at that particular moment. I didn't actually have real opportunities yet, but I was absolutely going to create them from nothing. I spent those final 2 weeks finishing every single assignment perfectly, documenting every process carefully in detail, and quietly gathering detailed information about how the corporate building contracts actually worked. Knowledge, I was learning quickly, was its own kind of power. The following Sunday, I went to church like I always did every week without fail for years. After the service ended, I ran into Thomas Burke, a retired accountant who'd worked closely with my late husband years ago before the tragic accident. We'd stayed friendly over the years, always greeting each other warmly at community events and church functions. That particular day, he pulled me aside into a quiet corner near the fellowship hall. "Martha, I heard through the grapevine you left Brightway," he said with genuine concern in his voice. "I might have something interesting for you if you're open to it." He explained carefully that a small cleaning subcontractor called Clean First Solutions was struggling financially. The elderly owner wanted to retire soon, but couldn't find a suitable buyer who understood the business properly. They desperately needed someone with real industry knowledge and management skills. "You've been in this business for decades," Thomas said seriously, looking directly at me. "You know it better than anyone I know in this entire city. Want me to set up a meeting?" My heart raced with sudden possibility and hope. This was it, the opportunity I'd been waiting for without even knowing it. "Yes," I said firmly without any hesitation. "Set it up immediately." The learning curve was incredibly steep and challenging, but I attacked it like my entire life depended on it, because in a very real way, it absolutely did. The owner of Clean First, an older gentleman named Vincent, patiently walked me through complicated contracts, vendor agreements, insurance requirements, and delicate client relationships over several weeks. I studied absolutely everything with intense focus and dedication. Profit margins, supply costs, employee retention strategies, competitive bidding processes. Every form I filled out, every invoice I carefully reviewed reminded me of the corporate world that had looked down on me with such casual contempt. But now I was learning to speak their language fluently, to understand their systems from the inside out. I read business management books from the public library every single night until late. I watched countless YouTube videos on negotiation tactics and leadership principles. At night, I made detailed lists and strategic plans, carefully mapping out how a small struggling cleaning company could grow into something much bigger and more successful. I felt like a hunter patiently studying her prey, learning every weakness and vulnerability. The knowledge gave me confidence I'd never had before in my life. Within 8 focused months of dedicated work, everything changed dramatically and completely. Vincent officially retired and sold me Clean First Solutions at a fair price. I used my life savings and a small business loan Thomas helped me secure through his banking connections. I immediately renamed the company Silver Clean Facilities. The name felt exactly right: clean, professional, strong, memorable. I started small and careful, keeping all our existing contracts and treating our workers with genuine respect and fair wages that reflected their actual value. Word spread remarkably fast in the tight-knit industry. Cleaners who'd been mistreated and underpaid at other companies came to us specifically asking for jobs. We built a solid reputation for reliability and integrity that money simply couldn't buy. Clients noticed the immediate difference: dramatically less employee turnover, consistently better service, reliable quality they could depend on every single time. Within just 1 year, we'd successfully doubled our contracts and revenue. I hired experienced supervisors, established comprehensive training programs, and created employee benefits that were genuinely rare in our industry. I wasn't just running a company anymore. I was building something that truly mattered to real people's lives. Then came the phone call that changed absolutely everything in my life forever. Thomas, who'd become an unofficial advisor to SilverClean, walked into my small office one Tuesday afternoon carrying a thick manila folder. "Martha, we've been approached about a potentially major contract opportunity," he said carefully, sliding the heavy papers across my cluttered desk. It was a detailed proposal to provide comprehensive facility services to an entire corporate building network: cleaning, maintenance, supply management, security, coordination, everything they needed. The lead building in the entire network? Sterling Corporate Plaza. My hands froze completely on the papers. I saw the distinctive logo at the top of the page, the same one I'd cleaned under for weeks while wearing that humble uniform. The same building where Olivia worked. Where she'd publicly denied knowing me. Where she'd erased me completely from her life story. My breath caught painfully in my throat. Thomas noticed my sudden reaction immediately. "You okay?" he asked with concern. I looked up at him slowly and nodded. "I'm fine," I said quietly but firmly. "Let's review the terms carefully and see what we're working with here." The contract negotiations took several intense weeks of meetings and careful revisions. I met repeatedly with building management, operations directors, and careful financial officers. They were genuinely impressed with SilverClean's documented track record and our competitive pricing structure. During one lengthy meeting, I overheard two executives casually discussing tenant companies in the building. One name caught my attention. Immediately, Olivia Hayes from Quantum Analytics. She's one of their senior analysts. Now really going places fast. My daughter. My only child. My heart hammered violently in my chest, but I kept my face completely neutral and professional, showing absolutely nothing. I nodded along, taking careful notes like it meant absolutely nothing to me. Personally. Inside, emotions churned violently: anger, sadness, betrayal, and something else I couldn't quite name yet. Determination, maybe. Purpose. I was in their world now, not as someone to be casually dismissed and mocked, but as someone they genuinely needed and respected. I signed the extensive contract 3 days later with a steady hand. SilverClean Facilities was now the primary service provider for Sterling Corporate Plaza. I was back in that building, but this time on completely different terms. 2 months after we officially took over the Sterling contract completely, I started hearing concerning whispers through various industry channels and building staff gossip. Quantum Analytics, Olivia's prestigious firm, was in serious financial trouble. One of their major clients was threatening to pull a multi-million-dollar contract over mismanaged data and repeatedly missed deadlines. The company was hemorrhaging money badly, and heads were definitely going to roll soon. I received internal memos as part of our building services agreement: budget cuts, layoff warnings, emergency board meetings scheduled. I read through them very carefully in my private office, recognizing all the telltale signs of a company in genuine crisis. Negligence was visible everywhere in their operations. Overpaid executives, poor project management, outside consultants billing excessive hours for minimal actual work. The foundation was cracking badly, and nobody inside seemed to know how to stop the inevitable collapse. Except maybe someone from the outside. Someone who understood how to build something solid from the ground up. Someone who'd learned through years of hard, honest work what real value meant. Someone exactly like me. Thomas came to me on a Wednesday afternoon, his expression unusually serious and intent. "Martha, I need to show you something important," he said quietly, closing my office door. Behind him, he laid out detailed financial documents on my desk: public filings, debt disclosures, stock information, bankruptcy warnings. Quantum Analytics is actively looking for a buyer or major investor to stabilize operations, he explained carefully. They're trying desperately to keep it quiet, but word is getting out fast in financial circles. The company's actually smaller than it looks from outside: lots of hidden debt, artificially inflated valuations, poor management decisions. He paused meaningfully, watching my face closely for any reaction. Silver Clean is in a strong position financially right now. If we brought in the right investment partners, we could make a completely legitimate offer to acquire them. My mouth went completely dry. By Olivia's company? The same prestigious firm where she'd denied knowing me? It seemed absolutely impossible, like something from a movie. But Thomas was completely serious. Think about it carefully, he said. This is a real business opportunity. Legal, strategic, smart business sense. I spent the next month preparing carefully and methodically for this opportunity. Through Thomas's extensive connections, I met with several potential investors, experienced people who believed in Silver Clean's vision and trusted my leadership abilities completely. We formed a partnership group, Silver Clean Holdings. I maintain majority control and final decision-making authority, but we had the capital to make significant moves. I started small and strategic, buying out minor service vendors that quantum analytics depended on daily, document shredding services, office supplies, IT support contracts. Each acquisition was completely legal, strategically planned, and invisible to the larger corporate world. Slowly, methodically, we were surrounding quantum analytics, controlling the essential services they needed to function normally. My confidence grew steadily with each signed contract. Every successful negotiation was another careful step towards something I couldn't quite name yet. Justice? Vindication? Revenge? Maybe just truth. Maybe just showing the world who I really was beneath the uniform. Each night, I reviewed our progress carefully, making notes and adjustments to the plan. I was building something bigger than just business success. While I carefully built my strategy, Olivia's comfortable world was steadily collapsing around her. Through building staff and careful observation, I learned that her name had appeared in several internal audit reports. She'd signed off on significant accounting errors, nothing criminal or intentional, but careless and negligent. Her manager had apparently told her to just approve it quickly. And she had, not understanding or caring about the serious implications. Now, with the company under intense scrutiny from investors, those signatures mattered tremendously. I heard she was panicking, staying late at the office every night, desperately trying to fix things that couldn't be fixed anymore. Rumors of massive layoffs spread through Sterling Plaza like wildfire. I also heard through the grapevine that Andrew, her wealthy lawyer fiancé, had started distancing himself from her publicly. He'd been seen having lunch with other women at expensive restaurants. The golden future Olivia had been building so carefully was crumbling, and she had absolutely no idea what was coming next. Part of me felt satisfaction. Part of me still ached for the daughter I'd raised. The announcement came on a cold morning in March. I wasn't there personally, but I heard about it from multiple reliable sources. Quantum Analytics held an emergency all-staff meeting with mandatory attendance. Employees packed nervously into the main conference room, whispering anxiously among themselves. The CEO, a thin man named Howard Preston, stood at the front looking exhausted and defeated. "We've made a difficult decision for the future of this company," he said wearily. "After careful consideration, we've accepted an acquisition offer from a private partnership group. This will stabilize our operations and secure your jobs going forward." People murmured nervously, asking worried questions. Who bought them? What would change? Would there be layoffs anyway? Preston raised his hand for quiet. "The majority stakeholder will address you personally next week. Please be professional and patient during this transition period." Olivia sat in the front row, pale and visibly shaking. She had absolutely no idea what was coming. No idea that her entire world was about to shift completely on its axis. I imagined her sitting there, worried about her job, her future, never suspecting who now controlled both. The following Tuesday, I walked into that conference room myself for the big reveal. I'd planned this exact moment carefully for weeks. I wore a tailored suit, charcoal gray with silver buttons, the color scheme of my old cleaning uniform but transformed into something powerful and professional. My hair was styled professionally. I carried a leather portfolio. Behind me walked Thomas and two other members of the Silver Clean Holdings board. The room went completely silent as we entered purposefully. I saw faces I recognized from my cleaning days. Some looked confused, others shocked. A few seemed to be putting pieces together slowly. And then I saw Olivia. She was sitting 3 rows back now, her eyes wide and completely uncomprehending. I walked calmly to the front of the room, set down my portfolio, and looked directly at her. "My name is Martha Hayes," I said clearly and firmly so everyone could hear. "Some of you may remember me from before. I used to clean these floors every single day. Now I own them." The silence was absolute and perfect. Olivia's face went completely white. Her mouth opened but no sound came out at all. The fallout was immediate and brutal for the old guard. Within 2 weeks, the old executive team resigned under pressure, including Howard Preston and 3 vice presidents. The board was completely restructured with new, competent leadership. We brought in experienced managers who actually understood operations and treated employees fairly. Local media picked up the story quickly. Former janitor leads acquisition of struggling analytics firm. Business journals wrote feature articles about my journey from cleaning services to corporate ownership. The public loved it, a story of resilience, hard work, and integrity winning against corporate arrogance. Silver Clean Holdings became a symbol of something larger than just business. Reporters called me constantly for interviews. I gave a few carefully, staying humble but honest about my journey. I talked about dignity in work, about how every job matters, about building something real instead of something that just looked impressive on paper. The attention was overwhelming, but I stayed focused on the actual work. I had a company to run and real people depending on me now. This wasn't about revenge. It was about showing what real value looked like. For Olivia, everything fell apart completely and utterly. The audit reports with her signatures became grounds for dismissal. We didn't have to do anything special. The evidence was already there in black and white. Our new management team had no choice but to let her go. Professionally. It was handled professionally, with severance, but the damage was done to her reputation. Her professional reputation was destroyed completely. Within days, Andrew ended their engagement coldly. I heard through the building gossip network that he'd told friends she was a liability now. Her former colleagues avoided her completely. Nobody wanted to be associated with someone who'd been let go during an acquisition. She lost her expensive apartment, couldn't afford the rent anymore on her severance. She moved to a small studio across town. And everywhere she went, she saw her mother's name in headlines, rising while she fell. I didn't feel joy about this situation. I felt something else. Something like closure. The natural consequences of choices finally catching up with both of us. 3 months after the acquisition, Olivia showed up at my office unannounced one afternoon. My assistant called to tell me someone was waiting nervously. My heart already knew who it was. I told her to send Olivia in. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner. Her expensive clothes now wrinkled and worn. Her hair pulled back simply. She stood in my doorway, trembling visibly. "Please," she whispered. "Please tell me this isn't revenge." I gestured calmly to a chair. She sat slowly, her hands shaking, I in her lap. I took a deep breath and looked at my daughter, really looked at her carefully for the first time in months. "It's not revenge, Olivia," I said quietly but firmly. "It's reflection. You're just seeing yourself clearly for the first time in your life." Her face crumpled. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I was ashamed of the wrong things. I was so stupid and cruel to you." I didn't move to comfort her immediately. Not yet. She needed to understand what she'd done first. After she'd cried herself completely out, I stood up slowly. "Come with me," I said. I walked her through the building, my building now. We passed cleaners in the hallways and I greeted each by name warmly, asking about their families. They smiled and greeted me back warmly, with genuine respect and affection. "These people have dignity," I told Olivia as we walked slowly. "They have pride in their work because they respect what they do. It feeds their families. It matters." We stopped at a window overlooking the city. "You thought my work was shameful," I continued. "But the only shameful thing was how you treated someone who loved you unconditionally." Olivia's tears flowed silently down her cheeks. I know, she whispered. I know that now. I turned to face her directly. I didn't do this to hurt you specifically. I did this to survive. To build something real and meaningful. You just happened to be there when everything came full circle. She nodded slowly, understanding finally sinking in. Months passed slowly but steadily. I offered Olivia a job not at quantum analytics but at Silver Clean Facilities. Entry level, working directly with our operations team. She accepted. Quietly and humbly, without negotiation or complaint. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start toward something better. She was learning what I'd always known deep down, that honest work has value, that integrity matters more than appearances, that real success is built on respect and effort. On the anniversary of my acquisition, I stood in my corner office as the sun set over the city beautifully. The skyline glowed gold and orange. In the reflection of the window, I saw two versions of myself. The woman I was, mop in hand and invisible, and the woman I'd become through determination. Some messes you clean up once quickly, others take years of patient work. But in the end, everything shines brightly. I turned off the light and left, locking the door behind me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, justice felt complete.